You're listening to the Cross-Check NHL Show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Andrew Berkshire and Mary Clarke.
Welcome to the Cross-Check NHL Show. I am one of your two hosts, Andrew Berkshire, from the Game Over shows on SDPN, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Mary Clarke, who's always bringing the ideas. She's got a great show for us planned out today because she's the one who organizes everything. We got to give credit where credit is due. We're going to talk about the Western Conference playoffs finally being decided. The Vegas Golden Knights were eliminated. Why does everyone hate them? We're going to get into it. Then we're going to do our trophy predictions. We'll talk about maybe who we think is going to win and who we would vote for should we have had votes. And finally, our Stanley Cup prediction, because the playoffs may not be completely set on who's facing who, but you got to have Stanley Cup winners at this point. And then we'll round it out with our pop culture roulette segment. But before we get into all that, Mary, how are you?
I'm good. We were talking before the show. I'm knee deep in NHL playoff prep because it is that time of year. And it's fun. Playoffs are here. It was nice to, finally get that last playoff team, settled.
Decided.
Yeah, basically, because it was a very will they, won't they for a couple of days. It was kind of, dragging out a little bit too long. But other than that, I'm good. Looking forward to my my next couple of days off because as we record on Thursday, it's my Friday of the week, as you were. So looking forward to a couple of days off to just relax from all the playoff prep because it's a lot, Andrew. It really is. This time of the year is fun. It's just a lot of work to, get to the fun part.
Yeah. I mean, we're in the middle of launching new shows. We launched Game Over Toronto to a lot of fanfare on Wednesday night, or Tuesday night, sorry. Wednesday night, I did my own show. And then tonight, I guess last night when you listen to this, because we're recording on Thursday for Friday, Game Over Calgary will launch. So we'll be announcing our hosts of that show shortly as well. So lots of exciting things down the pipe for me, but let's get into the hockey a little bit because last night was absolutely wild because obviously I was watching from a Canadiens perspective of watching the Montreal Canadiens win their game against the New York Rangers. And, Canadiens fans are freaking out because they're going to ruin the tank. And then Dallas is up 3-0 on Arizona. And they're like, oh my God, Arizona's going to lose out. And the Canadiens are going to move up to 31st place and maybe not have the best chances of taking first overall. Then Arizona comes back from 3-0 and wins in an overtime, which taking that game to overtime eliminates the Vegas Golden Knights, who in the fashion that they've been playing the last few weeks here, lost in a shootout anyway. They couldn't even muster a shootout goal. They've gone 0 for 17 in the shootout the last 3 games.
That's Flyers-like numbers right there. Let me tell you that.
Awful.
Yeah.
So it was like a wild turn of events from like flip-flopping back and forth from the Canadiens fan perspective, and then all over the place from like playoff eliminations and clinching best lottery odds. It's a wild night for an 81st game on the schedule.
Yeah, the Stars kind of just like walked backwards into the playoffs in the funniest. There's so many layers to this because we've been talking about, who's going to make that final playoff spot. I mean, Los Angeles had secured their spot a couple of days ago. So it was coming down to just Dallas and Vegas, basically. And, there was a lot of will they, won't they with Dallas. It felt like they were doing everything in their power not to make it to the playoffs, but they had that 3-0 lead up on Arizona in the third period. Then they suddenly lose it, and everything's like going crazy, and Stars fans are freaking out on Twitter, and it's just like chaos, and it's everything you want to see, especially if you're just a neutral observer like me, because it's just like, oh, this is fun. But then of course they get to overtime, so they get the point, which shuts out Vegas, who were at that time in a shootout. So it was very interesting watching both of those things happen at the same time. Then Dallas loses in overtime to Arizona. And then Montreal clinches that last that last, or I guess first technically, spot in the draft lottery. But even if you have the best odds, you technically don't have. There's
A
technically
majority.
the odds are still kind of stacked against you. It, probability and all of that. But I
Yeah.
completely get it from Canadians fans, because Flyers fans are in a similar position where they want the draft odds to be more in their favor, essentially, in terms of like at least being in like a top 3 pick or top 4 or 3 pick,
I
essentially.
thought you were
So
going to go full Hunger Games there.
every time that I say that phrase, it is always in the back of my mind. It's like, man, that the Hunger Games has kind of ruined the "may the odds be ever in your favor"
They
thing.
have, yep.
But it's fine. It's at least, it's a good line, I must say. But yeah, it is. At least now, we're basically at like the last games. When you guys hear this, Friday will be the last set of games for the regular season. So we are down to it now. It is just who's going to match up with whom. But Wednesday night was a lot of fun because it was there was just a lot of things happening all at once, between the Canadians fans freaking out about their draft position to Stars fans freaking out about losing or possibly losing to the Coyotes in regulation had they had given up an additional goal to Vegas people. Then of course people hating on Vegas, which I think we're going to talk about shortly, because that's been an interesting development over the past couple of years, and I just wanted to talk about it because I thought it was neat, and I don't know, not something we've ever really seen in the NHL in a while. So
Yeah, it's pretty wild, honestly. The Vegas Golden Knights obviously came into the NHL extremely aggressively, continue to be extremely aggressive. Their answer every summer seems to be to acquire the most expensive player possible, which is great and it's fun. And then this year they played around with the LTIR fiasco, trying to stick guys on there and skate into the playoffs. And it blew up in their faces. And for those who would say, like, injuries are an excuse, sure, they had some injuries this year, some pretty devastating ones, but they got to a point in this season where the Dallas Stars were not playing very well. At one point, the Stars had like games in hand on them, and they were red hot. They cooled off incredibly badly, and the whole like control of the situation was in Vegas's favor. They were healthy. They had the same number of games left. They just had to outpace the Dallas Stars, and they had a game against the Dallas Stars to really drive the point home. At the end of the day, I look at this Vegas Golden Knights team, and they just could not get it done. They lost, I believe, 5 straight to end the season, 3 straight in shootout. Like, they had leads in every game. They could not hold a lead. They had a 2-goal lead against the San Jose Sharks. All they had to do was hold it for a couple of minutes. Sounds familiar, like their playoffs a couple years ago. And they could not do it. Like, we can talk about not having their starting goaltender in because Robin Lehner had career-ending surgery, which, again, seems to partly be due to a relationship between Lehner and Pete DeBoer that was fractured due to DeBoer's comments while Lehner was playing injured. So, like, this team, I don't know, I think they have some soul-searching to do because they have major cap problems going forward, and most of their players who are signed for big money are legitimately still very good, but I am very worried about Alex Pietrangelo being a part of that team for a long time. I think that he's become a glass cannon offensive guy who gets destroyed every time he's on the ice now. Like, he puts up offensive numbers, but overall he's just terrible now. They have some issues.
they do.
And, like, I don't know. You have the control to get it done, and you don't. I think the excuses are out the window. And frankly, they got very lucky in the first couple of months of the season where they were playing terrible hockey and still recording a lot of wins. So they're lucky that they even got close to it.
Mm-hmm. Also, I assume you meant a season-ending injury for Robin Lehner instead of
Yes, did I say career?
Yeah, you did.
Season-ending.
I just wanted to make sure
Sorry.
so that we don't have people freaking out a little bit. But no, it was just season-ending injury.
Season-ending.
But yes, this is. I mean, it's the fault lies at the feet of Vegas. They had everything in their power to make a playoff run. It was in their control. Like, their destiny was in their hands, and they just flat out fell short. And I mean, it's disappointing, but I'd been on the beating this drum for a while that it's probably good that Vegas misses out on the playoffs for the first time in their NHL history. It hopefully that means they can, reevaluate their players, maybe take a little bit of a step back. I know that the team's, internal MO basically is like go for it every year, go for it every year. But I feel like they have to change some things, but I think they need a little bit of stability. They need to like build like a core they can, keep like they have, but I think that they need to like, I don't know, reevaluate where they're at with this team. Maybe trim some extra fat off that they don't necessarily need, but try not to make anything too drastic, I think, in terms of just like, because we've talked about it. They've changed like they I don't know, you're a star player on that team and then you're gone the next year, it feels like. There's no real consistency with what they're doing. And I think that they may need to take a little bit of a step back. You can still be aggressive, but I think, they need to, rein it in just a little bit. Because I think
the solution, Mary, is for them to go and get the most expensive player possible in the summer.
That's what they think. That's what they think will solve their issues. But you can only throw so much money at your problems. We saw what happened with that this year, and they got themselves in injury trouble, and then had to like Tetris their way around. I was gonna say Jenga, but it's two different things. But Tetris their way around, their salary cap, and it by the ends, like more people were healthy and stuff like that. For a while, it was pretty dodgy. It's just, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be the best way to operate your team, because, the Lightning did it too, but they only had like one major player who was injured and stuff like that. And ever since, I think they've been, pretty fine with their salary cap and whatnot. But, I don't know. I think this is overall good for Vegas that they missed out. They just need to do a little bit of soul searching, I think, is the big thing. I just think they need to I think from management on down, because, management was part of the reason why they got into these issues anyway with the whole salary cap stuff.
Yeah, I would argue that I don't think it's a good thing for Vegas, because they have a $92 million salary this year and they missed the playoffs. And because they're going to have to change things up quite a bit, like this was a very clear cup run year for them. Mm-hmm. Like they needed to make hay from it. And frankly, the Western Conference is terrible. Like Vegas has no business being worse than Minnesota, St. Louis, Edmonton, Los Angeles, Dallas, like Nashville. At the beginning of the season, what did we say? No prospects, because they've had like 5 draft picks in the last 5 years. A lot of their players are on the wrong side of 30. And yeah, Roman Josi, Matt Duchene, and Philippe Forsberg had career years, like friggin' phenomenal. And UC Saros is good. But are you telling me that Vegas doesn't have players that can match those guys, like depth-wise and even star-wise? Like Mark Stone is better than anybody on the Nashville Predators. I know he missed a lot of the season, but still, like, to me, it's inexcusable that they missed the playoffs.
Can it be both bad in the short term and good in the long term? Is that kind of like...
You know what I think it's good for? The league. Because we heard all these rumblings about, summer GM meetings are going to talk about a playoff salary cap so that teams don't do this, like stashing people on LTIR and building up star-studded rosters to head into the playoffs. Yeah, the Lightning kind of got away with that last year by accident because they didn't know when the season was starting, and Kucherov had his hip surgery and frankly came back on the exact timeline that was expected of a guy who underwent that surgery. It happened to be right as the playoffs started. And we've talked many times before about how he wasn't himself at even strength. He couldn't move for the first round and a half at least. They tried that in Vegas. Like, it was very obvious that they were trying to put guys on LTIR that maybe shouldn't have been on LTIR and stash them there until the end of the playoffs and negotiate that cap space. It didn't work. So the fact that they couldn't make it work and make it happen in that weak Western Conference should send a ripple throughout the rest of the league that you can't really do this, right? Not everyone is the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think that's the big takeaway here. Even the Vegas Golden Knights, who are very good, But
yeah, very good. And, I'd like to think, they've got a pretty smart management team. But, I think I don't want to transition out of this, but I think what we wanted to talk about at the end here of this segment was how people really dislike Vegas as a team.
yeah.
I mean, it has been, like I said at the beginning, this is a weird, we haven't seen like a heel turn like this in the NHL.
I don't even
Like,
think it's a heel turn.
I guess public perception heel turn.
Yeah.
Like it's more the public perception.
But I think a
because,
lot of people hated them the whole time. Like as soon as they went to the Stanley Cup final in their first year.
Sure, but they had, their, people really enjoyed them for being different, for like having a more showy non-hockey type of atmosphere that was, distinctly Vegas. People loved their jerseys. Like at the very beginning, it felt like people really liked Vegas. But sure, some people turned on them as soon as they went to the Stanley Cup final because they're like, you can't, we've all suffered so much. You can't just be out of the gate and, win. That's not how it works. You're not one of us type of thing. I never felt that way. I always thought it was a cool story. I mean, they played the Capitals that year, and that was the year Ovechkin finally got his cup. So there, in my opinion, that Stanley Cup, there were two good stories because Vegas, first year in the league, what an incredible story versus, Alex Ovechkin finally getting his first cup type of deal. But then after that, it just feels like people got tired of their shtick. Like they used to have
sure.
like on Twitter, the Golden Knights Twitter, was one of the, I don't know,
can we admit it was bad from day one?
People enjoyed it though. People enjoyed it. And then for some reason it started to turn and people just, got, like I said, got tired of their shtick, got tired of, their things. And not treating Marc-Andre Fleury well at the end, I think certainly helps. The exodus of players, when they're like, we don't find you useful anymore. Like they're very like cutthroat businessy. I think that all compounds into it. And specifically because the San Jose Sharks, this wasn't a Sharks specific message.
But it's very much Sharks
I think it
led.
was, yeah, I think it was somebody, I swore I saw it was somebody who had like created like a message and got it up on the boards, like a fan basically. But so this Jumbotron message basically said, fans unite, celebrate, keep the hockey energy kicking, now imbibe generously, honor the Sharks. So if you take the first letter of every single one of those words, it spells out a very clear message against the Golden Knights. And the Sharks and Golden Knights have had a rivalry going on for a while, the big playoff thing, essentially swapping coaches with Pete DeBoer. So, they've had a rivalry for a very long time now. And I don't know, I'm perfectly fine with Vegas being the villain here of the NHL, but I just wanted to, kind of give a little bit of a timeline because it didn't used to be that way. They used to kind of be like, liked by, the majority of NHL fans because of how different.
Know.
I think so. At least in the beginning
always seen them
of
as
their
very
season.
split.
Really?
Because the old school people
did
not like them,
fine.
right?
I'm discounting the old school people from this argument because I don't know. I'm more meant just like hockey Twitter, at least the, hockey, circles that I ran with. A lot of people really enjoyed this, breath of fresh air, but the hockey men TM, not enjoying this makes complete sense. That wasn't out of the blue for me. Of course, they were always going to hate it.
I don't know. I kind of saw this coming from the start because from maybe just I have different circles, but I have seen a lot of people from the very outset did not like Vegas because of the success that they had early on. And a lot of people insisted like, oh, they need to suffer first as a fan base to learn how to be real hockey fans. And I don't subscribe to that, but I understand where they're getting at, like having everything given to you on a silver platter, which is how it kind of seemed when they went to the Stanley Cup final right away, even though they did just hoodwink a bunch of stupid GMs.
Yeah, I mean, that's the real thing at the end of the day is everybody, like all the NHL GMs put Vegas in a position to succeed. So really you should be mad at your own GM for
100%.
Causing the Vegas Golden Knights to exist in the form that they did. It should reflect more poorly on you and your team than, not you, the person, but it should reflect more poorly on your team than it does on Vegas for the way they constructed their team. Because look at Seattle, it's completely different now. And, sure, we'll probably have hot takes about Seattle in 4 to 5 years from now. But, that's hindsight and all. But still, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to see the changes over the years with how people have viewed Vegas. So
I think people were so desperate when Vegas came in to see something different because the NHL is so monotonous and boring that they wanted to embrace it. And then it took a very short time to realize that a lot of the stuff that Vegas was doing was super cringe. Like their opening ceremony that everyone was like, oh, it's so amazing. Even in the first year, I was like, this is terrible.
I
It's
find
so
it fine.
bad.
I
It's
think it's
so
fine.
bad.
It's Vegas.
It's very Vegas, but it's
Yeah.
awful. It's super
If you know
cringe.
what you're getting into, you can enjoy it for what it is. I'm glad that they are different enough from the NHL because, yes, the NHL is boring and monotonous. And, you know, we should be celebrating these types of things, even if they're cringe. We should embrace the cringe. Andrew, I've had this, you know,
There's two different kinds of cringe, right? You embrace cringe like Gritty. Because Gritty is definitely a little bit cringe.
People still hate Gritty. So.
I mean, people who hate Gritty aren't to be listened to. They can't be trusted. Gritty's amazing. Gritty, from the googly eyes to the hands that squeak is what did it for me most.
It's the hands and the stomach.
It was like
squeak,
that first video where they introduced him with Claude Giroux and they did the high five and it had the little like ding, ding. That was like, oh my god, they're geniuses. But Vegas, I feel like, I don't know. Are you going to hockey or medieval times?
I think that's okay. I think, you know, the entire NHL doesn't have to be like this, but I think it's okay for a Vegas to exist in the NHL because everything else kind of sucks in terms of.
It would be fine if it wasn't every single game. That would be my thing.
Nah, I think, you know what you're signing up for with Vegas. I think it's perfectly fine. And then, of course, we got Seattle, who is a very basic, not boring hockey market, but, you know, it's very basic. It is your typical NHL stuff you see, and they've got great branding and stuff like that, and it's unique in that regard. But, like, there's definitely something to be said for Vegas's type of cringe, and I'm perfectly fine with it existing in the NHL. So before, because we've gone on long on this, but before we go, at least move to the next segment. What do you think Vegas can do to, you know, flip its perception in NHL circles? Or are they kind of just forever doomed to, you know, have, you know, be like the public enemy number one for fans? Like, is there anything like, will they have to, you know, keep missing the playoffs? Will they just have to, you know, bring back Marc-Andre Fleury? Like, is there anything you think they can do for their perception to change? Because I don't think so right now.
I think, first of all, they have to start treating players better. And like the players that they move out, because there's being cutthroat in business in terms of making decisions, and then there's unnecessarily like excluding people from the process, which is what they did to Marc-Andre Fleury, which is super gross for a guy who's super well respected around the league and a veteran who's won Stanley Cups and was, you know, their first franchise player in a way. That definitely has to happen for people to be more like respectful of their organization, I think. And in terms of like turning things around, I don't think they can start missing the playoffs. You can't trade for Jack Eichel and then go through a rebuild. That would be so funny, but
yeah,
I feel so
Jack
bad
Eichel.
for him. Mm-hmm. But you still have, you know, Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, and Max Pacioretty for another year. You have to do something with that. You have Alex Pietrangelo signed for $8.8 million. Like, at a certain point, you have to make bank on that. Shea Theodore is one of their guys who's actually underpaid at $5.2 million for the next 3 years. I would assume that the next 3 years, they're still gunning for a cup. It's just that they're going to have to move out some of those mid-level contracts like William Karlsson, Jonathan Marchessault, Evgeny Dadonov. Those guys are probably up for trades. Alec Martinez, stuff like that. I don't see how they can, like, right now, Mary, their cap hit for next season is $83.86 million. The cap is 82.5.
I was gonna say they're over the cap.
They're already over the cap, and they have, like, their roster is not full. They have Matthias Janmark is a UFA, Nick Waugh is a RFA, Keegan Colasar is an RFA. Like, they don't have everyone signed. They have to trim significantly and have space to move within the season, and probably they want to add because they didn't make the playoffs this year. So there's a lot to be done with Vegas. But let's move on from them because, man, we've spent a lot of time on Vegas, more than they really deserve this season. Coming up next, we're going to talk about who we think are going to win all of the trophies this season. We're going to go rapid fire to make up some time from this segment because we've taken like 25 minutes. But stick with us, because first I got to tell you about Built Bar. Summer's coming, and with summer, you're going to need some food on the go. Built Bars are the perfect snack to take with you on family vacations. Throw them in your bags, in your kids' backpacks, and make sure that everyone has a bar so you're fueled for your summer adventures. The best part about Built Bars, they're healthy and delicious. No more sacrificing delicious food for health. With Built Bar, you can have both, and it's easy. All you have to do is go to Built.com and order now. All Built Bars and Puffs are covered in 100% real chocolate. That means that with Built Bar, you can eat healthy and actually enjoy doing it. Have you ever tried Built Puffs yet? We're going crazy for the Puffs. They come in crazy flavors like banana cream pie and even churro. Who doesn't want a protein bar that tastes like a churro? And they're only 140 calories. Sign me up. If that's not enough for you, or if that's not enough flavor for you, then you might want to try the Mix Box. The Mix Box comes with 12 flavors of bars and puffs. Built Bar makes sure that there's something for everyone. Know what my favorite bar is? It's definitely the mint chocolate. I love mint chocolate. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Go to Built.com to get all your favorites. Banana cream pie, raspberry, double chocolate, and so many more. They're delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. Check them out at Built.com. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off of your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, Mary, so I'm going to try to go through this as quickly as we can, just because we went super long on Vegas, which is understandable.
I think it was worth it. I think it was worth it.
There's a lot to cover. Mm-hmm. All right, should we start with the Hart?
I think so.
Okay. Your Hart Trophy pick, who you think would win?
I think it's going to be Auston Matthews.
It's going to be Matthews.
He just hit 60 goals. It's a huge accomplishment for him. Just incredible stuff from Matthews this year. Just, man, what a player. We talked about it before that, we all thought Matthews was going to be good, but this level of good, and to do it not just offensively but defensively, is really something. He's just a special player this year. Absolutely, league MVP. Good on him. Like what a year to prove himself. I mean, he didn't have to prove anything really, but at the clouds that hang over the Maple Leafs, even though Matthews has been a really good player for them, that definitely, weighs on their minds, or at least I would assume it does, because, they still have to win a playoff round, Andrew, and the weight of the world and expectations from Toronto are on them. But, good on Matthews this year for just absolutely showing up. Hitting 60 goals is an incredible feat. Like, I know, a lot of people talk about it because, Toronto Maple Leafs, center of the hockey world, whatever, but it's an incredible accomplishment. It really is.
It absolutely is. He's something else. I don't even know what to say about Matthews anymore. I feel like
he's just an incredible hockey player. Yeah. Just really absolutely having an incredible season. And, he's still really young. Like, he's got so much, like, we're gonna keep seeing. Hopefully, we're gonna keep seeing seasons like this from him. Hopefully, this is just the start. I mean, it'd be really cool if that was the case, because, like I said, we knew Matthews was gonna be good, but this good, I don't think anybody could have predicted that.
Yeah. Here's a question: if McDavid gets 7 points in the last 2 games for Edmonton, and one of them will be played, I believe, tonight before this recording comes out, he will top Nikita Kucherov's Hart year, where he put up 128 points, which was the most since like 95, 96. Mm-hmm. Would that push him into the Hart conversation for you?
It might, but the bar has been raised this year. The floor is so high this year.
I know.
There's so many good players having such good seasons across the board. I just think the floor is higher, and McDavid should, I think, be in the Hart Trophy conversation every year in terms of just what he brings, as long as he's healthy and producing points. But it's just such a dominant field this year. It's still going to be Matthews for me, but I think at least in that regard, he probably gets a look, in my opinion, as a possible nominee. Maybe as like the third, if I had to guess.
All right. Next up is the Vesna. I think this is the easiest one. It's Shesterkin.
Yeah, it's Shesterkin. Just also an incredible year. Great goaltender. Kind of fell off a little bit in the last couple months, but is, just still rock steady. Incredible netminder. Going to be real difficult for anybody in the playoffs to, knock out the Rangers if they have to beat him, 4 times in a series, and just, yeah, playoffs are going to be fun, I think, with seeing if Shesterkin can continue to, produce the way he has and just be an incredible goaltender.
Yeah, Shesterkin's been amazing. He's going to end the season. I don't think he's going to play the last game of the season. Georgiev played the last one for the Rangers, and I think he played back-to-back, so I think that tells you that they're resting Shesterkin.
Yeah.
But that means that Shesterkin will play 52 games, start 52 games this year, which I believe will be the fewest of a Vesna winner in the modern era, because Tim Thomas, I believe, had that at 55 started games back in 2010-11. And yeah, it's an interesting thing. I feel like the game the position of goaltending has changed drastically over the last 10 years. You just don't see guys playing 70 games anymore.
It's such a grind.
Being successful. Yeah, it is such a grind.
It's such a grind. You can't
mentally and physically.
Yeah, it's much healthier for these goaltenders to be splitting the times with the way they are. It really is.
100%. All right, the Calder Trophy.
I want it to be Trevor Zegras because I think he's an incredible goal scorer doing a lot of really awesome things for the game. But it probably is going to be Moritz Seider for the Red Wings if I had to guess. My heart wants Trevor Zegras, but my mind says Moritz Seider because he's just also been wild for the Red Wings this year. Just what a bright future this Red Wings team has if they can get more of their pieces together. Just what a crew that they have there.
Yeah, 100%. I would 100% vote for Moritz Seider. I think that there's a difference between being a good forward who's putting up points, and I think Zegras has also started possession driving as well. So he's very clearly going to be a star player in this league. He's going to be amazing. But also doing that as a defenseman while carrying the corpse of Mark Stahl and Danny DeKeyser around all season long is just incredible. He just has no support in Detroit, and he's still been fantastic. So he's number one for me. And Michael Bunting is a senior citizen, so he doesn't count.
How old is he? 26. We've hit the limit. He's 26-year-old. Goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I think that he is 100% eligible. Mm-hmm. But if I'm voting, age still matters. Mm-hmm. Like if an 18-year-old is doing what Michael Bunting is doing and it's just like the exact same equal season, the 18-year-old is winning because it's way more impressive for an 18-year-old to do that than a fully physically mature man. Mm-hmm. Right? So to me, like, even though it's not written into the language of the award, for most people, it's going to be a factor. And I think he deserves to be in that top 5.
Yeah.
Right. He's had a fantastic year.
He has,
but he's a complimentary player on one of the best lines in the league. He's not the guy who's driving the bus.
Yeah, exactly. But, still a great season regardless.
Yes. And let's face it, if Marty St. Louis was coaching the Canadiens all season long, it'd be Cole Caulfield.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say it now.
Yeah, this is true.
Last half of the season, Cole Caulfield is second in rookie scoring with 32 points in 36 games, 19 goals, 8 more than anyone else.
Yeah. Oh, what a season he could have had if
it's such a shame.
He was the coach the whole year. But hey, at least the future is looking bright for the Canadiens, and Cole Caulfield will be hopefully unleashed through all 82 games next year.
Yep. Also 14 even strength goals for Cole Caulfield.
Wow.
So
yeah.
Imagine if their power play was good at all.
Yeah. At all.
Because it's terrible. All right, next up, the Norris Trophy. I feel like this is the toughest one because there's 2 candidates here that I think are 100% equally deserving, and then you have a third candidate that nobody is talking about who's had an absolute monster year in Victor Hedman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's between Roman Josi, Cale Makar, and Victor Hedman. And, my heart wants Cale Makar. Because it'd be great to have 2 back-to-back younger Norris Trophy winners.
Also, Makar was robbed last year.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. But it'd be great to see more of the ushering in of the new guard type of stuff. But Roman Josi absolutely deserves to be there, right up there, neck and neck. Probably is going to get it. I don't have the stats or in front of me, but is he due for a Norris Trophy?
He just won one.
He just won one? Okay. So
didn't he?
I don't know. Like I said, I don't have the history of the award like up right now, but he feels like he could be a prime candidate for one of the like he deserves it, but also because he hasn't won one in a while or
No,
hasn't won
he
one.
won in 2020.
Okay, so that argument doesn't hold any water here, but he still might just get it. This is hard. It's really hard. Like I said, my heart wants Cale Makar, but my head believes it's probably going to be Roman Josi. And then of course there's Victor Hedman, who's also incredibly deserving. So this one is going to be, I think, the closest in terms of just like people are just going to be split. It really is. You probably have to do you're going to have to do like a huge deep dive into what you believe are the best analytics to prop up this award and this winner. So
I think this is going to be one of those situations where we see who votes on just points, because Roman Josi's having a good year by the underlying numbers. Like, he's a very good player, but he's not having an absolutely dominant year. But he's put up 90 plus points for the first time for a defenseman since Ray Bourque in the early 90s.
Yeah.
So like it's a historical offensive season, but he's not the crazy play driver that Cale Makar is, right? Or that Victor Hedman is. So it's going to be like, we're going to see the results of the votes, and we're going to see who values just points for defensemen and who values more of the underlying stuff. I think this could go any way between the three of them, but I agree that it'll probably be Josi. I think would vote for Cale Makar, but we don't get to vote, unfortunately. All right, and the last one we have, the Jack Adams. I think this one is super obvious. What do you think, Mary?
My pick is Daryl Sutter.
Yep, Daryl Sutter.
Yeah, sorry. Sutter.
Yeah. I think Mike Sullivan was in it until the Penguins
dropped off completely.
Yeah.
They're in a rough spot. They really are, but
bad way to go into the playoffs for sure.
The Flames had such low expectations for them this year, and they've just absolutely blown it out of the water. And it seems like there's real excitement for this team. There's like they've got the best line in hockey. It's incredible what they've done this year offensively, and they're just I think it's because of their jerseys, since they flipped to that, their new colored jerseys that, are, the bright red and yellow.
Yeah, the retro ones.
Yeah,
I love those jerseys.
They're so good. They're so good. And I'm so glad this Flames team is good enough that we get to see more of those jerseys, because they're one of my favorites in the NHL, I think. But yeah, just an absolutely incredible year for the Flames, blown all of expectations out of the water completely. Just, yeah, I think he's going to run away with it. By a mile, if I had to guess.
Dark horse candidates that I think should be nominated: Andrew Brunette in Florida.
Yeah.
After the way the Florida Panthers started, and then
I forgot about the whole Joe Quenneville thing.
Yeah, Quenneville got dismissed.
That happened so long ago. Yeah.
That could have been a great start fall apart season, but they maintained everything, and
and then
part
some,
of it, it was a fantastic year. And also dark horse candidate for me, not even leaving Alberta, Jay Woodcroft in Edmonton. It's been phenomenal how much he's impacted that team. Like, there's always that new coach bump for a good team, but he has changed things drastically, and it's been extraordinarily successful. So if Edmonton makes noise in the playoffs, a lot of it has to do with that coaching change.
I think it's also helping that Mike Smith is 9-0 to end the season. Just been absolutely on a tear. We'll see if it continues in the playoffs, but a good goalie can prop up a coach. Obviously, he's doing really good work there too. But I'm just saying, I think it helps that his goaltenders are at least playing better under him for now. So we'll see how it goes in the playoffs, because that is the real test for this Oilers team, is if that can hold in the playoffs, and they can get out of the first round.
And don't worry, Edmonton, you're only going up against Anze Kopitar and the Soul Destroyer, Phil Deneau. Ask Mark Stone and Auston Matthews how that went last year, because he made them look like shadows of their former selves. That's probably the worst matchup, like center to center, that Edmonton could have possibly asked for. Yeah,
they're gonna have to play. You're gonna have to do your best to play to home ice advantage there in terms of like getting the matchup you want. But that's a rough one. That's gonna be a real rough one.
Like, I expect Kopitar and Deneau to both play like 20 to 22 minutes a game each. So you're really getting like 8 minutes a game where you can get McDavid and Draisaitl out against not them.
Yeah, exactly. Oh boy, it's gonna be like a rock in a hard place to see what budges first, essentially. So
100%. All right, that's all we have for our awards. Hopefully you can give us your suggestions as well. Hit us up on Twitter, and hopefully you like our picks. But before we get to the next segment where we are going to talk about our Stanley Cup picks, we got to tell you about Bet Online. Hey, maybe you'll bet on your Stanley Cup pick. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sport wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today and use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, Mary, we got to make some picks here because I don't know if you know this, but my picks from the preseason show did not pan out so well.
I don't even remember what we picked. Do you have them?
I don't know what yours were. I don't remember, but mine were Vegas and the Islanders.
I probably picked Colorado. I'm trying to think back. Colorado, and who would it have been? I don't think I would have picked. Did I pick the Islanders too? No, I thought you were the only one that did that. Regardless, I'd have to look it up later because I also wrote down my picks for the win. They were the same. I wanted to make sure they were the same everywhere, so I could probably find it. But yeah, it's certainly been a season for I think I saw something that was there's only one team left out of the top 4 teams from last year.
Yep, the other teams missed the playoffs.
Yeah, the other teams missed the playoffs, something like that. It's just been a real wacky year. First time we've had a full 82 game season in a handful of seasons now because of the pandemic. So
I think also that short summer was brutal for those teams, and it's why I think the Lightning are going out round 1. I think the Toronto Maple Leafs are finally going to win. I think despite the fact that the Lightning have been hot lately, and they are a team that is hard to judge their regular season because they can turn it on in the playoffs. How can they not be tired?
Yeah, they are. I mean, we're going to talk, we're going to do an early show next week on Monday that will preview everything, but it's so hard for me to pick because I'm history says the Maple Leafs aren't gonna do it. They're gonna, fall to their own mental block here, but they're so good, and I don't think Auston Matthews is gonna let them fail this year unless barring some other catastrophic, a completely out of left field thing for this team. But it's so hard to predict because I don't know. It's the Maple Leafs. Anything can happen, Andrew. We know this, so I can't. I don't know if I can predict it because it's just I don't want to go against fate. Also, I don't want to predict it and then have Maple Leafs fans yell at me when it's wrong. So, but yeah. But as for the Stanley Cup final, this is it's for me. It's a personal wish. I want it to be the Florida Panthers because Claude Giroux getting the Stanley Cup would mean everything to me. They have a lot they need to combat. Their offense is incredible, the best in the league, the best in these playoffs. But God, when their goaltending is bad, it's bad. So they've shown that they can outscore their problems. But who knows in these playoffs? I'm at least hoping it's going to be fun for them. That for me is the big thing. This Florida Panthers team is the funnest team in the playoffs, just based on their incredibly chaotic nature. And I hope they win the Stanley Cup at the end of the day because it'd be incredibly fun. And teams love to copycat the Stanley Cup final winner. So maybe that would bring in, more offense, more craziness, stuff like that to the league. But also because Claude Giroux, be a great story, incredible, just an incredible way for it to, end for Giroux, at least finally getting a Stanley Cup after everything that has happened this season with the Flyers.
Yeah, it would be really fun. And I totally agree with you that the Panthers are the most fun team in the league because they just don't really care about playing defense. They're just we'll just keep scoring. Why would we play defense when we can just score 4 more goals? And that's amazing. Yeah. It's the best. Whether that works in the playoffs is, always questionable. But I do love watching the Florida Panthers play, so I hope they go super far. I'm going to go a little bit off the board here.
All right.
I'm going to go with the Calgary Flames.
Ooh, that would also be an incredible pick. I would not be mad at that either, because they too also are an incredibly offensive team. So fun. Would get Canada their first Stanley Cup since
93.
93, since I was born. Yeah, I mean, I would not be mad at that at all. 100%. And, they've actually got a good goaltender. Unlike Florida, where it's kind of a coin flip. It kind of just depends
Yeah,
on what
I don't
happens.
trust Bobrovsky at all. Like,
Yeah, and I
that's
mean
the
Spencer
thing, right?
Knight, is probably the future for that team, but he's been good to great, but also can still, just have bad games as young goaltenders can. But so I'd probably would trust the, Flames goaltender to get that done 99 times out of 100. Uh but yeah, I mean the real big thing with the Flames is if somebody shuts down their top line, they're in trouble because
I
it's
disagree.
really? Okay,
I
because, like, a
disagree.
lot of the points come from that team, a lot of the goals, so
Yes,
they just their depth has to be, has to rise to the occasion, essentially.
it does have to rise to the occasion. They'll have to score at a higher rate than they did in the regular season. But I look at their depth, and they have a lot of proven playoff performers. Tyler Toffoli,
Oh,
even
yeah.
on the fourth line, Milan Lucic has had playoff performing in his past. I don't think he's going to score a bunch, but I think he definitely could chip in. I really like Michael Backlund. Andrew Mangiapane,
Yeah, I
fantastic year
mean
that no one's even talking about. He's been playing on the second and third line here and there. Like, he's 35 goals. 35
yeah.
goals, Mangiapane. And then they have Blake Coleman there.
Oh, I
Dylan
forgot about
Dubé
that.
is really
Yeah.
heating up down the stretch. They have a lot of depth there. I think the only thing that worries me a little bit is their defense. But for some reason, like, Daryl Sutter has got them playing like a perfect unit,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of belief in his ability to prepare round to round. And when I look at what kind of play sustains itself through the playoffs, it's that like machine-like mentality that comes in waves, right? And
Mhm.
there's no shifts off. And I feel like the Flames have that better than almost every other team. And they have Jacob Markstrom behind them,
Yeah.
who has just been incredible. He's been the one guy who has had like the workhorse workload and also the fantastic numbers this year. And man, I don't see a very glaring weakness for them, and I do for pretty much every other team.
Mhm.
And I think the Flames are going to shock the world this year.
I cannot wait for I hope it's Flames Avs for the conference final. If that's the way, yeah,
It would be amazing.
that would
But
be because they're in two different. I hate the way the NHL's playoff
I
format
know,
is,
so do
but
I.
that would be that is my assumption is we would get in the conference final Flames Avs. I think that would be incredible. That would be oh
I'm
oh it
even
would be
more
so good.
excited for Flames Oilers Battle of Alberta in round
Oh
2.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my god.
There's so much. I mean, we're gonna talk about it on Monday because we don't know the full standings yet. Because I mean, we haven't mentioned it, but the Flames and not the Flames, the Penguins and the Capitals are basically having like a race to see who can face the Panthers. No, yeah, the Panthers in the first round. So like that still hasn't been decided yet. So we're gonna find out by basically by the night you hear this Friday night what things are, but it is going to be I think it's going to be real good playoffs, Andrew. I really, really
Me too.
hope it's going to. We don't have we've got, some of the same teams we've had before, but there's a tale of two conferences. There are juggernauts galore in the Eastern Conference, just absolute incredible teams. And then you have the West where there are great teams and really top tier teams, yes, but then just absolute chaos in
Yep.
the like basically at the like 3 spots below essentially. It's going to be hopefully a really good playoffs. I'm really looking forward to it. And I want the Panthers to win because of Giroux, but I don't think I'm going to be mad either way because I just want good games. And I think that the way things have stacked up this year, it's going to be some incredible games.
100%. All right, that's all the hockey talk we have for you today. We're going to hit you up with our pop culture segment in a minute, but first I got to tell you about Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders their parts on their computer, choosing only the brand that their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend over 30 or 50 or 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? The markups are crazy. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, which means they care about your business. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer, be it do-it-yourselfers or professional mechanics. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so that they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts that your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, Mary, what game are you playing these days?
I've been playing the same thing, Andrew, so I don't
Still
think that
Elden
people
Ring?
want it. Yeah, still Elden Ring, still Final Fantasy 14, having a great time. I have been making my way slowly through Elden Ring, and hopefully I will finish it soon because it's been a great game, an incredible journey. I know there's a lot of really hard bosses ahead of me, so we'll see. I want to try and beat all of the main bosses in that game. There are some that are just side bosses, and one is the hardest boss in From Software's history. So hopefully I can beat them. We shall see. But I want to hear about Moon Knight, not Moonlight. Moon Knight. If you have watched it, because I haven't yet, and that's fine, but I still want to hear about it because, I haven't been able to watch do as much pop culture stuff because I've been so focused on hockey stuff recently. So what have you got, Andrew? Have you watched it? What's the deal?
Yeah, I watched episode 5 yesterday, and this series has gone from I think it's going to be good, but I don't know if it's going to be good to it might be up there with WandaVision.
Ooh, all right.
So good the last couple of episodes, and this is one of those scenarios where TV just works so much better than movies, because I read or saw so many reviews of people talking about how like the Batman really gets into like Bruce Wayne and Batman's character more than any Batman movie, and I watched it and I was like, what? Like they kind of didn't. Like he just glowered the whole time. This is a true breakdown of a character and their identity and why they are who they are. It is incredible. And Oscar Isaac, every episode, he gets even better. He was so good in this episode. It's hard to even describe. And for those who think that Marvel is formulaic, like watch Moon Knight, because it is totally off the wall. I don't know how they're going to finish it out because they have one episode to tie up a lot of strings, which has kind of been an issue for these 6-episode miniseries with Marvel, where they kind of build things out and go at a pretty slow pace, and then everything gets crunched into the last episode. I hope that it's a longer episode so they can tie things up in a satisfying way, but it's just so cool from, not really a spoiler for the show, but confirming that within the MCU, there are different kinds of afterlives based on what you believe and where you are. That's kind of cool. And just like the continuing building pantheon of gods, which I think is going to set up a lot of what happens in Thor with the villain being Gore the God Butcher. It's super good. The only complaint that I've seen from people is there hasn't been enough like actual Moon Knight, because it's just like he's lost the suit at this point. So I don't care. I'm just really enjoying the total acid trip and psychological thriller that they're giving us, and I'm really excited to see what they do here.
That sounds like a lot of fun, and we are going to have more Marvel content to talk about soon because Doctor Strange is coming out in a couple of weeks.
I'm seeing it next Friday.
Yeah, so am I. I'm seeing it next Friday morning. So it's gonna be a wild time, I'm sure.
Yes.
So I figure we could maybe do like a spoiler talk on it the week after, but obviously heavy spoilers, probably that'll take up the whole pop culture segment. But I'm looking forward to that because it's going to at least be a visual feast for your eyeballs. And I hope that there is, because that's what the first Doctor Strange was like. And it was definitely a feast for my eyeballs. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the heck is going to happen in this film, because it just seems to be wild. And we've talked a lot about how we just want the MCU to do more fun and wacky things. And I think that's, in
they're
that
listening.
vein. Yeah, they're certainly listening, and it seems like the next slate of Marvel movies are gonna be real bangers, if I have to say so myself.
Yep. I mean, between this and like the Thor trailer that came out.
Oh, yep.
Also, I read that the kid Thor that's running is Chris Hemsworth's son in the trailer,
Oh, that's
which I'm
so
like,
sweet.
that's so cute, because
That's so
there was
cute.
like a picture last Halloween of his son dressed up as Thor.
Oh, that's so precious. That really is.
It's really great. All right. Thanks for listening to the Cross-Check NHL Show and making us your first listen every Tuesday and Friday. Now make your second listen Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Hosts Steele Roden and Flip Livingstone help you become the experts of your fantasy hockey league. It's free, available wherever you get your podcasts. See you on Tuesday.